Okay, thank you very much for the introduction, Ms. Genevieve. Um, I'm very much um, grateful for the invitation to present uh, this topic on the crucial role of architects, engineers, and environmental planners in improving the urban greenery situations in Davao City. So, as an academic and who also teaches tropical design, so the studies made by GUHeat will be very much helpful since we already have these results and data which could be used to further teach or to further improve on the researches on particularly urban heat islands. Um, I, so on the title architects, so architects would also include landscape architects, not just architects who design buildings. Engineers could also include mechanical engineers, sanitary engineers, not only civil engineers. And environmental planners could also include urban planners, urban designs, uh, and many more. I think we all agree that development is inevitable if we want to prosper in life, especially developing our cities physically. Who wouldn't want to prosper? So whether it's to prosper economically, socially, and politically, we need to understand that development should be again and again sustainable and at the same time inclusive. Before presenting to you our roles, let me visualize prosperity and development in what I call the disappearing green. So in less than or in more or less 20 years, we have cleared lands for buildings and other infrastructures. So whether it could be residential developments, institution, business, etc. In that span, so we have experienced the rise of temperature. I think we could agree on that as what the study have conducted also indicated. Personally, I could still remember back in 1999 when I came into college that once you go up in Ulas area, you could feel the difference in temperature. Today, well, depending on the season, that area is already warm. Um, we really cannot blame just anybody because in most cities, two-thirds of the urban green infrastructure or green space is owned privately. That is why, in some studies, the public access to open green spaces is also a factor of land ownership. So, if the government owns these lands, it could be easier to give people access or even develop these into green infrastructures. So, before we dig deeper, let us first define what is urban greening or urban infrastructure. So urban greening is simply defined as public landscaping and urban forestry projects that create mutually beneficial relationships between city dwellers and their environments. Emphasis on beneficial relationship. As we all know, that green spaces have health benefits. Adds aesthetics to our city and even has economic effects. And at the same time, also benefits wildlife and biodiversity. With a concern on climate change contributed also by the uses of by the causes of urban heat island, urban green infrastructure could definitely help us in adapting to these changes in the climate. And of course, no one profession could do all the measures in bringing in green infrastructure. We need the expertise of a lot of people to design and plan our cities, especially integrating urban greening. And ultimately, we are then tasked as professions to articulate and let everybody understand the importance of green infrastructure. We could actually influence our government to include green infrastructure in developing and planning our cities. So our role as a professionals or as professional in the design and planning of cities is beyond the name of our profession. Our role is actually more. And I want to summarize it with this acronym. So we have to master, we have to operationalize, we have to rediscover, and we have to educate. These four as guide are interrelated and one could come before the other. The important thing is that we have to embody these four things to fulfill our role. First, we have to master. With the improvement of life, with the development of technology and the new challenges we have every single day, such as climate change, politics, health, the pandemic, injustices, we have to learn and continuously learn. That is why we are required by law to have continuing professional development. We have the internet as well, a source of learnings. So we have webinars like this one as an example. So during this pandemic, I think we need to maximize our time while on quarantine to learn new things or even update ourselves with new developments. So you could also join free trainings online. On a personal capacity, I have recently finished a 9-day training on climate reality leadership core. If you are familiar with former US Vice President Al Gore, who champions the impacts of solutions and climate change. So he founded this group. And then we have the opportunity to connect with people around the world, share experiences, and share thoughts on how to go about the challenges of climate change. You could actually enroll in graduate programs for you to develop new learnings, um, which you could also use in your practice. There are available graduate programs even here in Davao City or even online. Specifically here in UP Mindanao, we have the Diploma of Master of Arts in Urban and Regional Planning, which have close ties with the School of Urban and Regional Planning in UP Diliman. So we have students from across Mindanao and from across sectors of society. We have practicing planners and LGUs who joins us because they just wanted to learn more. So practicing on the field is a good way to learn and master our crafts, but enrolling in a program or training will definitely, deliberately push you to study, learn, do assignments, and do your research. Next is we have to operationalize. So we have to apply and put to use what we learn. As I have said, practicing in the field is a good way to learn, and of course, application of our learning, and of course, application of our learning. It's the testing of ideas or concepts that will prove or even disprove these ideas or concepts. Of course, we have to be careful in operationalizing since these ideas of these ideas and concepts. It's not enough just to claim that our projects and proposals are sustainable, or our design is green, or our planning is inclusive. So we have to make sure that our claims hold water and our claims are truth and our claims work. So simple operationalization is enough to apply our learnings and ideas. So in this recent frenzy of gardening, for example, itong mga plantita natin, and we even saw an economic significance. The simple na mga grass would cost 200 to 500 or even 1,000. So urban gardening is one of the measures we could do to lower the temperature as the study shows us. So let us always incorporate in our designs spaces for greens. Our city requires developments additional 10 to 15 of open and green space and over and above the 30% requirement. So that is actually a good move. So on a personal experience, let me share to you my humble space. When I came in on one of the subdivisions here in Davao City in 2015. So this is the setup. It's a bare lawn, the front lawn. That's the corner lot. And after 3 years, this is what it looks like. So aside from providing shade and cooler temperature, it could also shelter different life forms like birds that nest on trees. So I think we have to commend again our city for requiring new developments, especially subdivisions for the additional 10 to 15 percent of green space. I think um, I know that it is a loss at the end of the developers, but we know that it is for the better of everybody. And I hope that we should also fully and strictly implement these ordinances. Next is we have to rediscover. So this is, of course, related to mastering of profession and learning new things. We should do research even in our own personal ways and capacity. By simply documenting the things you do in our projects, you could create a good source of information. We have to be updated on the current trends because whether we like it or not, we also have to find attractive ways to integrate green infrastructure in our planning. So our simple questions could actually lead us to rediscover or discover things in order to answer that simple question. We need to also collaborate with other professions, so with architects, engineers, and planners. Um, they should always work together in formulating solutions. So sometimes the stakeholders could also participate and actually could always give good ideas and solutions. The architectural profession in particular is now growing more reliant on engineering expertise when we talk about sustainable design. So even simple irrigation of landscapes needs to have the expertise of the engineers. More importantly, we need to contextualize or localize our efforts, and again, needs to be participated by the stakeholders. So personally, I have made a study on the major urban spaces in Davao City using the 5 dimensions of public space index or PSI developed by Meta. These dimensions are inclusiveness, meaningful activities, comfort, safety, and pleasurability. The concept is that we have to balance these five in order to have a good public space. Or if we want one dimension to improve, for example, comfort, so we need to look at the factors that affects these scores. So these are the result of the study per urban space or park. But let us focus on the next slides, which uh, combines these results. So this is the comparative presentation of the results of all the 6 urban spaces. So let's focus on the result for comfort. Both People's Park and Ospeña Park have a high score in comfort because simply this is due to the climatic comfort that the space provides in the form of shade and shelter. Obviously, that is because of the existence of trees and other vegetations. So it is important to include people or the stakeholders and users in our studies because uh, they have ideas or they have thoughts on how to improve our situations. So they give valuable input to our surveys that we conducted. And lastly, we have to educate. Sharing our ideas and sharing what we learned completes our role. Educate our clients, educate our leaders, our colleagues, and those who aspire to the profession, who will design and plan our green infrastructure later on in the future. If time and opportunity permits, present your innovative projects, present your discovery, and remember, as I have said before, that we have the ultimate goal of articulating the importance of green infrastructure to everybody. You could even oppose plans as long as your opposition is founded by facts and truths, and that if it's for the benefit of everybody. So, for the last part of my presentation, we could do some measures to uh, answer or to elevate our problems in the rising temperature. So some of these measures were also presented by Ms. Chinky, and of course, some are also were also incorporated in the CLUP and city ordinances. So first, remember that our city is a living organism and that green infrastructure acts as the lungs that filter or cool the air. So providing a forest in the urban centers and designing these to act as ventilators would truly help in the reduction of UHI. So coupled with the design of buildings, like for example, building height, their configuration, the morphology of the space. So this would definitely work. Remember also that water bodies have cooling effects and at the same time could be home to numerous lives, both flora and fauna. It could be a space for recreation and a space for health and wellness. Our very own Davao River has a lot of potential to become such a space for biodiversity and recreation. So we're also happy that there is a move for the development of Davao River as green space. So we also have to consider that green infrastructure is the best way to observe surface runoffs during heavy rains and ultimately lessen or stop flooding in urban areas. We could achieve that by reducing pavements in our projects or create water neutral areas where flood water could be channeled. So we have the as presented by Ms. Chinky a while ago, the ordinance on the car park to use permeable materials. We could install urban infiltration strips around the city and improve soil structure to better its absorptive character or its supporting life. Urban soils, especially at roadsides, are often not conducive to healthy tree and plant growth, yet they are seldom improved in the greening program. So actually, we can see that around the city na payat yung mga trees and they don't grow that big or that healthy since the soil is not conducive for life in general. And if possible, let's integrate water retention areas in our planning and even flowing water. That remember that flowing water dissipates heat faster compared to stagnant water. Here we could even convert our cemeteries into green cemeteries. So we are used to plain field of grassed cemeteries, but we could actually plant more trees. Um, so, so why not put these natural shades, of course, to add comfort to the user, especially during yung mga araw ng patay. But then again, it would be a maintenance problem. But if we are willing to pay for added comfort, so why not pay an additional price? So we could plant trees in our car park. So aside from permeable surfaces, we could plant trees that would also add shade to the cars part. And but of course, it's also we should also consider the damage the trees could do to the cars. So we just have to select the appropriate trees for this. We could also integrate additional water storage in our design, which not only act as secondary source of water for plants, but at the same time adds aesthetic to the space. So we have an ordinance to have a rainwater catchment facility in our projects. So the next picture, this is very important that we have to know uh, and choose drought resistant plants. So I think this is where landscape architects enter, so they know uh, what types of plants to plant which are drought resistant. Of course, balcony gardens and private gardens not only reduces temperature, but at the same time, it is also therapeutic. So ito marami tayong mga proposal even to the study to add roof gardens or even vertical gardens, and we have also that in our ordinances for a more green building projects. So these are challenging measures both on the engineering and mechanism. So of course, maintenance also is an issue, but we all know that these are effective ways to lower temperature, and the buffering and purification capacity of green roofs is also very much effective. Green noise barrier. So instead of building hard surfaces, which we know absorbs heat, why not uh, install or plant green noise barriers? So, and then we all know the concept behind albedo, the capacity of a material to reflect sunlight. So we know that the higher the albedo, the better. So the the value is between 0 to 1. So the nearer to 1 or equal to 1, the better is the reflecting capacity of that material. We could also revitalize our old dilapidated infrastructure and urban voids into urban greens. So if you are familiar with New York's High Line, so it's more than a mile of old elevated railway tracks that they have transformed into a green strip where people could use a spot walk or even a place for recreation. Another one on your right is the Solyu 7071 in South Korea, which is also an old uh, overpass which they transformed into a green strip like that of New York's High Line. So it is not very late for Davao City to be a green city. So I think we all agree that we don't want to be one like that of the densest cities in the world who suffers a lot from urban heat island or from other climate change effects. So for my before I end my presentation, so let me end this with a question or a challenge, perhaps not only to the professionals of the design and planning arena, but also to all of us, whether you're in politics, whether you're on the NGO, or whether you are a private citizen of Davao City. Um, I believe you are familiar with this image. So it shows the extent of Davao City. The gray and white areas is downtown Davao City or the urban center of Davao City. So imagine 50% of us is living there in that gray and white area. So we can also see Samal Island, Mount Apo, and Bukidnon at the left, and a portion of Davao Oriental and Davao del Norte on top of the image. So the question is, if we could plant bananas as big as the urban areas of Davao City, so why can't we slowly plant trees the whole of our urban area? I know it's a big challenge, but I think we can do it as long as we work together for a better green urban area. Daghang salamat sa tanan. Thank you very much.